I'm Pamela Fox, and I'm here with two of our best Maps API developers, and their brothers as well, bonus. So, do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
I'm Jeffrey Martin, the founder of 360cities.net. This is my brother David, the architect of 360cities.net.
So, yeah, hello, David Martin. I work also at Boston College, and for my brother here, building the website and backend of the system.
So to give a quick summary of what we do, we're a global network of virtual reality panoramic photography, currently in nearly 60 cities around the world, with thousands of high-resolution spherical panoramas, which you can browse using Google Maps, Google Earth, and we're using a number of different Google APIs for this.
All right, cool. So you guys started off using just our traditional JavaScript Maps API.
That's right.
And you pimped that out. And then in the last 4 months, we introduced Static Maps API and Flash API, and you've managed to also use those. So can you go, and even the Maplets API, which we introduced last year. So can you talk a little bit about how you use each of our APIs?
Sure. So the Google, as you said, the Google Maps API is the JavaScript Maps API is what we started with. We developed on that for quite a while. We ran into some problems with the number of things we were putting on the map, for example. So we had to deal with sort of the difficult problem of clustering the content and showing different content at different zoom levels, that kind of thing. And so the site, at that time, everything was very map-oriented. You kind of used the map primarily to navigate things, and you'd see stuff in a sidebar, or you could expand that. But then we sort of expanded. We realized, oh, it's actually pretty easy once we have all of our content sort of dynamically. We can just publish it on, all the different other ways you can publish this information, apart from RSS feeds, the Google Earth KML, and the KML for Google Maps itself, which we subsequently turned into a maplet. And we're now using also these static maps, as you said, and this just recently announced Flash API. So now we can, we sort of turn the interface a little inside out, instead of having it be map oriented, which we don't want to do because it looks just like a mashup. We really want to focus on the content rather than focus on the map. The map is helpful, and it's a really great widget for navigation. It's an aid, but it's not focus. Focus is the content, the photography, and the location. So we can now do that. For portability reasons, we really need to use Flash for the player, for performance and portability reasons, and now we can actually embed the map as a nice little interactive widget inside this Flash player.
Cool. So it's really cool when you go to sites and you get to browse their panoramas, and you can zoom in, zoom out. If you go on the Google Earth, in their KML, they're doing photo overlays, which appear as these little spheres that you can dive inside and look around on Google Earth. So most people looking at these are probably wondering how the hell you did it. So you want to talk about well, no, just generally, how do you get take these panoramic pictures and then make them something that people can browse? What does your camera look like?
Okay, the camera, it's a normal camera, digital SLR, not your little tiny one, but the big kind that you put lenses on.
Do you want me to get it?
You can get it.
You can keep talking.
You take a picture in every direction. If you're using a very, very wide angle lens, which sees maybe 180 degrees, you don't have to take so many pictures. Maybe 4 or 5 or 6 is enough. And then you stitch them together using various types of software. Some of them are open source and free, some are not. Here's one example of this type of camera. So this is a Canon 5D. You can use any Canon or Nikon or Olympus or whatever kind of SLR. This is a fisheye lens here. It has it's on a ring. You might see. This allows you to turn the camera around the axis of rotation, so that when you take a picture here and then you take a picture here, there is no parallax. The view in the overlapping portion of the photo is exactly the same. That allows you to join the photos together precisely. I've traveled here from Prague, so I didn't bring my tripod. I brought this monopod, which is a bit more portable. So when I make a panorama, I will turn it on first, and then take a picture like this, turn it like this, and then like that, hello, and then like that. And using this setup, that's all you need to make a fully spherical image.
Sweet.
So after it's stitched, you'll get, and I'll put this over here. After it's stitched, you'll get a flat image. It resembles a picture, like a map of the world, like a Mercator projection, for example. And then you put the image into a spherical format using Flash, QuickTime VR, or a few other formats. And we're moving towards Flash because it's ubiquitous and finally it works well enough to really just display this content properly.
Cool. So now we have a panorama of this.
Maybe.
Nice. So you guys told me a funny story about how you first started programming.
Oh dear. Well, I wouldn't call it that.
Something like programming.
Right. Yes, we grew up mostly in England, and so the first computer we had there was a BBC Model B.
Yeah. Was that 1983 or something like that?
Yeah, it was definitely before the first Mac.
Before I was born.
Oh dear.
Wow.
Yes, the BBC Model B, of course, is is mostly for games for us, and everything on a cassette tape. But what was great is all the games were written in BASIC, and it's all interpreted. So you just list the program, and you go in and edit we'll just change whatever numbers were in there. We had no idea what they were. I mean, they're all go-to addresses mostly, or some constants. And you'd like to hit on the scoring table if possible, but. It actually for the game of Breakout, the ball, if you broke through the top, it would actually start bouncing around somewhere else, off the screen. You could hear it.
In the other world.
Yeah, and the score would go crazy, up, positive.
Yeah.
And then, most amazingly, the ball would come back from wherever it had been. And you keep playing, and it would go,
Yeah, that was our first investigation into code.
And right after that, you started doing Google Maps, right? I guess we didn't quite exist then.
Well, you didn't exist then.
It's true. Who would be there to support it? You said sometimes you even use Photoshop. What do you use Photoshop for?
Just the most basic kind of adjusting the final image, the contrast, the levels.
Do you ever like fix your hair or anything?
In Photoshop? Yeah, if I'm in the picture, I might, yeah. If I've got a shaving cut, maybe I'll take that out. Sure.
Nice. So how do you actually get these panoramas from all over the world? Do you like fly everywhere at once, or like magic elves? Okay, I'm just wondering.
Yeah, no, we've got it's a network of independent photographers. So basically, we offer this publishing system, which vastly simplifies the process of getting this content onto the web. So the attraction for them is, instead of coding this whole presentation to show this full screen panorama, they simply upload it, give the coordinates, description, and that's it. And it's available on the site, on the maplet, on Google Earth, and it's indexed properly and everything else.
So do you pay them?
No, we help them make money by offering this service.
So people see the panoramas and say, I'm in Los Angeles, I want a panorama.
Yeah.
So they get a lot of referrals through it?
Yeah.
Now didn't you say, isn't the Los Angeles photographer also from the Addams Family?
He is. His name is Carl Stroiken, and he played Lurch in, not the old Addams Family, but the new one, and he was also in Star Trek The Next Generation. and he's very tall. So this monopod, it goes like 2.5 meters tall, which is way above my head. But for him, it would be the perfect monopod. It would just be at eye level. Yeah, he's our tallest member, and a very good photographer also.
So he gets pictures of all like the really tall things.
Yep.
Nice. So generally, what's like the monetization strategy?
It's first is local businesses who want to be part of the network and to have their own amazingly great VR presentation, both on our site and on their own site. And the second is offering the service to larger organizations like municipalities, tourism bureaus, cities, or large companies who would like to have their own complete site with a map and many panoramas, 50, 100 or more locations.
So then, how many places do you actually travel though? Because you must travel sometimes, right? Or do you just stay in Prague the whole time taking pictures?
I'm usually in Prague. If I go somewhere, I bring my camera, of course. So I was in Amsterdam and Zurich. Here I was in San Francisco.
Really?
So of course I got panoramas of these places, but I haven't been traveling anywhere specifically to make panoramas, except Cuba, which I went to.
Do you have a picture of Fidel Castro?
I didn't see him.
Dead now?
He's not dead.
Okay.
But I didn't see him. But I went there and I did want to document this place while it's still the way it is. That was one of the rare times that I traveled somewhere in order to do this.
Do people ever get weirded out that you've got a strange looking camera on a pod?
Yeah, people often ask what I'm doing. In San Francisco, actually, I was driving around with my friend, and I was in the passenger seat, and every time we stopped at a red light, I would stick this out the window and get a really quick panorama. And one woman was like, "What are you doing?" So I told her, 360cities.net, check it out.
So you don't have to get permission to like, I guess if you're just taking pictures in public places, it's fine, right?
Yeah.
So even if you're at the beach, because I know some people, like, they're worried about their swimsuit bodies, and so not only are they captured in photographies forever, but they're captured like in 360 degrees, so you can like see the full scope of their bikini bodies.
Yeah. I haven't been to the beach much, but if there's someone who doesn't want their picture taken, usually I don't push it. So,
Alright.
yeah.
Alright, I guess we can go to the beach then.
Sure.
You promise I'm not to take a picture. Alright, so these are pretty gigantic pictures. You might even call them gigapixel.
Some of them are, yeah.
Some of them. So how do you what kind of setup do you need to actually do the processing, and then where do you store them?
Yeah, the final output image in JPEG is usually 10 or 20 megabytes. So obviously that's too large to show on a web page.
Right.
We have to get it down to 1 megabyte or less, ideally. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Well, what the photographers deliver is a single image, because there's a lot of technical sort of photographic details to make these images look nice. It's still somewhat of an expert process. I guess the tools have become very, very good, but these are very good photographers. They have very precise control over the way everything looks, which is important to them. And so what they deliver is a single large image, which is, as Jeff said, a 20 megabyte, usually about 8,000 pixels across and 4,000 pixels down. So whatever that is, 32 megapixels. And they range up to gigapixel scale. Actually so big that you can't even use a JPEG anymore.
Can't even open Photoshop, almost.
Yeah, so these, you use TIFF and then they get even bigger because it doesn't have the same compression, I guess. But so they deliver that. So that's one reason why we're valuable to them, because they upload this single image and then they get this incredible leverage, because we take that image and convert it into a lot of different formats. Behind the scenes, initially this was basically just to support all the different kinds of plugins that existed to view these images. When we started out, the Flash players existed, but they weren't good enough. And so we had to, convert this into QuickTime VR format, and then we would have a Flash one, and then a Java one, and then this Deval VR version, and Shockwave version, and then just plain JPEG versions. And not only that, you want to adapt to the client's capabilities and their bandwidth. So each image would be, we basically have an image pyramid, the original version, and then maybe a power of 2, factor of 2 in terms of pixels, power of square root of 2 in the diameter, going down all the way to thumbnail size. And that was just to support all these things. We're a little bit, things are better now. The Flash players are excellent, and the Flash penetration helps us. So we can just use Flash now, and for that you just need the images. But we still have the issue of adapting to the client, the capability of the client, because you want to display both on very high speed desktop links and also mobile devices and just slow network connections. And so for this, what you really need to do is what Google Maps does, and presumably Google Earth, which is to take these giant, really giant images that they have and cut them into tiles, and tiles of different resolutions. So you can zoom in and out, and the bandwidth that the client requires is proportional to the number of pixels that they're looking at, and is completely independent of the size of the image.
Right.
So this is, cutting an image into tiles at different sizes is not difficult, but it's a hassle, and it produces hundreds or thousands of individual tiles, and it's just a sort of a logistical pain. Also, file systems are bad at that kind of thing, all these files. So that's the other thing we do is, after we upload these images, cut them into tiles. Now, having all these different versions of the image, we are now able to support all the different kind of interfaces that we have to the content. Whether it's a little embedded Flash thing on the maplet, or it's the little floating sphere that you can fly into in Google Earth, which uses the tiles, or it's a list of thumbnails that you can go through to look at nearby locations or whatever it is.
Right. So what's your programming architecture look like? What are you coding in on the back end? What are you using for front end? Any particular libraries?
Sure. We kind of have two. We have a sort of current live version and a coming version. The original version was it's all very embarrassing. So it's just Perl scripts at this point. So it's Perl scripts, and we're not even using a SQL database. Actually, we are now, but the initial version, we had our own just simple file-based kind of data files, and now we're doing something more proper. I'm happen to be using Ruby and Rails. I don't think it really matters that too much, but something that properly decouples the external interface from the internal stuff, and using a proper database so that we can scale the performance up. The image processing is pretty heavy though, so that's just for the the kind of UI stuff. Mm-hmm. When people upload these images, our current image processing pipeline for a single image takes about 20 to 30 CPU minutes, on a dual core machine. It's because the images are very big, and the interpolation, the photographers demand very good quality interpolation, and this takes a long time. And there's just so many files. Plus, so what happens is it gets uploaded to our host. This then gets sucked. The image gets sucked into my closet, where I have several machines that are sitting there just always looking for someone to have uploaded something, like suck it down. They run all this image processing, which at this point is a combination of this tool Pano to VR, but also Image Magic. Image Magic, turns out we can use for most things,
but not the remapping.
But not remapping. We need to remap the image between different projections, between like equirectangular and Mercator and cubic and so on. There are all these different projections of the sphere, right? Because you have to map this round thing onto a flat thing, and there's lots of different ways to do that, and it depends on whether it's going into the tile-based representation or thumbnails or whatever it is, or if you want to sell someone a print to actually print out and put up on their wall, you may want this different projection. Anyway, so these machines crunch on this, produce these zillions of files, tar it up, and then our host, sucks that back and opens it up, and now all the files are there.
So how scalable is your closet?
Yeah, well, it's a big closet.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a big closet, but it doesn't have cooling. Actually, yeah, we had our roof redone, and I missed an opportunity to have the roofers just poke a hole in the roof so I could put in cooling into that closet, and then we'd really be good to go. Probably only for another month or so. But no, obviously this is a silly solution, and so we, we'll move to something like these Amazon Elastic Cloud stuff so that we can offload this computation onto something that actually scales.
Right. Well, at least you have somewhere warm to go in the winter.
It's true, actually. In the summer it's a problem. I have to keep the door open, or it gets really hot in there. In the winter,
especially if the guy from Tokyo is madly uploading panoramas like he is sometimes.
Well, I like it when he does that in the winter. It keeps us warm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And cold winters in Boston.
Yeah.
That actually will. The cold winter cools these machines. So we're. I think that's an environmentally sound strategy.
Move to Alaska, maybe.
That might help.
Yeah. So there's been a lot in like the VR space this year. Like we had Street View, obviously on Google Maps, which is kind of a VR thing, and then you guys have your thing. So do you have any like visions for like the future of VR, video, or?
We've started making panoramic video.
Okay.
We made one demo, which we'll show a little bit later. And for the photography, we are trying to move towards becoming sort of the standard on the web for this type of content, the panoramic photography, which I would say is quite different from Street View, which I find to be more of a navigational tool, not a kind of destination tool or something that for like seeing a city. So for this space of VR, we're trying to become the standard of this, and we hope to grow in the next year, exponentially into hundreds of cities and hundreds or thousands of photographers. I hope we can start moving into, for example, journalism. I think this is a really great medium for journalism, for showing what happened or what is happening. It's, I think, really, in fact, a perfect medium for this. Okay, you have a newspaper that can show an image. On the web, showing just an image, I think that's a waste of the medium. This is a medium where you can do a number of amazing things and show stuff in a new way. So I think this is one example of how you can use the internet for extending the possibilities of what you can do.
Now I feel bad about all my single images on the web.
Yeah, time to get a fisheye.
You can buy one for me.
All right.
Cool. All right. So why don't we take a look at their site?
Okay.